I would love to start off by finding out more about what what got you what got you to get help in the first place. What was going on with you when we first started working together?
So when we first started working together, I was in an honestly really pretty dark headspace a lot. It's been a while, but from what I can recall, I was like horrifically angry at every single aspect of my life. Really just extremely pessimistic, angry at myself, angry at the position I sort of had myself in, with work, with certain relationships, but mainly like internally towards myself. I was really not happy with where I was. Um, and I had tried a therapist prior. We met on like BetterHelp. I don't know if I could say that. Does that matter?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
All right. Yeah, so I had tried one before. I don't want to blow up your spot. And didn't really vibe. I mean, it takes a while. I've done therapy in the past. It takes a while to find somebody that you connect with. So I had one with her, not great. I found you, and we definitely clicked. I feel like you were more speaking my language, and then one day I saw you were wearing some Grateful Dead stuff, and I was like, okay, this is my type of person. Which I'm not gonna lie, definitely helped sort of ease me into certain things and make me feel a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
that was a mistake that you saw those pants that day. That was not on purpose.
no, I figured as much. Yeah, the camera went, "Boop," and I was like, okay, Grateful Dead pajamas, nice. But yeah, as far as where I was, just really upset with myself, very angry. I remember when we first started getting into this stuff, I was just like cursing like a sailor left and right, and just like I didn't really realize that was gonna come out when I started to share. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, one being like I'm all good, everything's great, 10 being my mental health is in the toilet. Where were you on that scale when we first started?
I mean, 9 somewhere around there.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you were very dark and very angry. I was genuinely concerned about your ability to find joy in life again when
Mhm.
we first started working together. So your mindset was dark, your mindset was angry, you were not mentally well, struggling a lot. Do you remember what your first goals were when we first started?
Um, Specifically, not necessarily. I mean, like to deal with all of that, you know what I mean? To get to for a long time, I was like, if I can get to a neutral space with myself, I would be ecstatic. Like not I don't, which might be belittling my own needs or whatever, but like I was like, I don't need to be like stoked and happy and like, full of, jubilance all the time, but I want to be not miserable on a more regular basis.
You were going for mediocre mood. Um,
Yes, yes. I
that
was
would have
going
been
to
better
from
than where
for
you
yeah,
were.
pretty okay would be phenomenal.
Okay. Um, and you know, it took a while for us to get to mediocre, right?
Mhm.
It was took some time. Do you remember how long it took us to get there?
Uh, at least a couple months, I feel like, if not maybe a year.
Yeah, I would say I think it feels like it was probably like 6 to 9 months maybe
Right. Yeah.
before that initial layer of like bitterness and anger had
Hmm.
lifted a bit. And so, like looking back now, when we stepped into coaching after there was this period of psychotherapy, how did your goals change as you progressed in the work?
So yeah, once my mental state got a lot better, I was a lot less miserable, angry. Um, I started becoming a lot more goal oriented. I was working at a job that got me really distraught all the time. I felt very like undervalued, and it was something where I was working as a kennel attendant in a dog training facility, and I felt like I had some good potential, and I was trying to show that a little bit, and it never really got seen, which again doesn't really it puts a damper on someone like me who's already sort of putting a damper on themselves. So a double whammy. That was a big goal of mine, was to get somewhere, to find some progress with that, and to move from one position to another, which ended up happening. I was at that place for about a year, and through working with you, I ended up applying to a few different places, and I got hired as a dog trainer. For the first time, I have been now a professional dog trainer for the last 5 years, and I'm currently starting my own business. And recently got my first client. I have like an LLC. All of these things are really happening and taking shape. I'm like comfortable putting myself out there on Instagram and making my own content and stuff like that, advertising, doing all of these things that I really don't think would have been possible had I not made that change and made this progress.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I recall the tears around scooping poop, and just really wanting more for yourself.
Hmm.
And yeah, you had to learn and grow and get a different job and, learn the ropes of what it's like to train dogs as an independent person. And
Hmm.
now you're starting your own business. You've
Yes.
started it.
Hmm. I still scoop poop, but I do it with a smile on my face.
Okay, well, hey, as long as it's poop with a smile, you're good.
Right.
Right, you're good. Um, and so really it sounds like initially it was like this mental health struggle. Things were tough, it was uncomfortable, you were miserable, everything was dark and miserable and awful. And you were able to clear and heal the stuff that was underneath all that anger and all that rage.
Hmm.
Um, and once that lifted, you were able to like focus on your life and say, hey, this is really what I want, and actually go and make that happen for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, Going from kennel attendant to business owner in 5 years is a huge leap in progress. So, in thinking about how all the things that we did, all the work that we did to get you where you are now, what
Hmm.
were the tools, the strategies, the activities? What really made the biggest difference for you in reaching the goals that you did?
So there were two that really hit home. I'm like getting emotional thinking about one of them. So one of them, and this was like right off the bat, was sort of like the checklist that you had me do of I forget the specifics, but um, like personal life, community, physical health, a handful of these things that are really just different aspects of your own life that you had me break down, of my own life, that you had me break down and sort of categorize, give numbers to, give, yeah, just like a 0 through 10, and see where all of that was. And
So just to clarify, you're like talking about the 7 layers of holistic well-being: body,
yes,
mind, heart,
thank you.
spirit, community,
Yes,
and environment.
yes,
So being able to scale to check yourself on the regular to see
yes,
kind of where you're at was a helpful thing. Okay.
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like started doing that, and I realized like a lot of these are quite low. Um, I started getting healthy, so my physical health was okay, but my community was shot. My mental health was not great. This is in the beginning of the psychotherapy aspect. So some numbers were like in the middle, some numbers were pretty low, and that definitely made me a little more, you know, give a little more respect, I guess, to them when I didn't really think they were that important, or I hadn't thought about them in the way that you made me think about them. So changing my perspective of that was huge. And gradually, as time went on, I was able to raise those numbers up. But it was something you had me do every single day. So at the end of my day, I would like take a moment. I would look back. I would have something in my phone, or I would just like copy paste, and then I would insert my numbers for the day. And the numbers would change, but gradually it was an upward trend. It wasn't always linear, I suppose, but a generally upwards trend. The other thing was the visualizations that you had me do. Um, and it was intense for sure. But um, going through my past and looking at myself in different ages, different parts of my life, um, was a really eye-opening and extremely therapeutic. I think a lot of people struggle with this is sort of like, it's cliche, but like there is a little kid in a lot of us that just like never got the approval or the hug or whatever the case may be. Hey, it's cool, it's gonna be okay. Um, and throughout working with you, I was able to get that. Which is something like, as you age, I think, have a hard time looking at things retrospectively, especially with sincere glasses on, right? Like you can look to your past and say, like, either awful or that was awesome, and like having the nuance to be able to look at some of these things and say there was both, right? Um, but also to go back and be the one to provide that for myself was like really insane, really heavy, extremely moving. I mean, I have like a vivid, I don't even know how to say it because it's a visualization, but it's also a memory of the visualization of um, doing this, opening up the sliding glass door of my childhood
The
home.
glass door.
Yeah. And giving my little, like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7-year-old self a hug and being like, hey, buddy, it's okay. Doing that with a teenage version of myself, with a very bitter, angry 20 something version of myself. Um, and I've always had a problem with like self-love and appreciation and gratitude. And obviously if I'm in a place where like mediocre is okay, like okay is great, right? Like I want to get to a neutral place. That's my like top of the line goal. That does not say a ton about like my self-confidence and my ability to give myself stuff like that, right? So these visualizations were immense in changing my perspective and being able to provide love for myself that I didn't have, or that I feel like I didn't get as a younger person.
That is so beautiful. Would you say that you raised the bar from mediocre after you were able to heal some of these parts and the stuff that was going on inside?
100%. My goalpost changed. You know what I mean? I went from like pretty miserable all the time
Yep.
to mediocre, and then like most of my days were like pretty okay, and then my goal was better than okay. So like being able to move the goalpost and change the perspective. It was huge. You know what I mean? It was something I obviously don't think I could have done on my own. Being able to share honestly and have somebody like you provide that, and you have like a style that I really appreciate because um, you have a way of being like this loving, compassionate person while also being very direct and to the point and being like, okay, like we're gonna talk about this. You know what I mean? Like yes, there's the loving aspect. However, let's dig deeper and figure out like why this stuff is making you feel the way that you're feeling. And that balance is huge for me. You know what I mean? I think things are way more nuanced than people give them credit for sometimes, or
Yeah.
I've the therapists that I've worked with maybe in the past have had the approach to, where there's a lot of like, okay, why do you feel that way? But it's like then it ends there, not like, okay, we're gonna break this down and then break that down and break that down. Um,
Right.
yeah, so lots of layers.
All the layers of the onion came open. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. We did go deep and far and long and wide, and it has resulted in you going from, if I can just kind of be okay every day, I'd be happy, to
Mhm.
I'm creating a life that works for me um and the family that I want, and now you've created, right? Like it's not just your job that has changed. Can you tell us a little more about the personal aspect of your life that have changed through all of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So my wife is due literally any day now. Her due date is in 2 days, and you know, that's also something that was really, really heavy to deal with because, like, if you don't love yourself, how can you really love else, right? How can you fully give yourself to somebody? And I never wanted to end up putting my own child in the place that I felt like I was put, so doing all this work um, helped me get to that point where I was like, okay, like if I can love myself and I can have these standards raised, then I can be more ready to provide that for somebody else. And now I have a daughter on the way. Um, you know, I got a nursery all set up that I painted and put together a crib and a, pack and play and, all of these things that I was horrified to do, it took a long time to get there. It definitely did. But um,
But
yeah,
here,
no, I'm
and
there. Yeah.
you guys bought a house, right? Like you
Mhm.
got married, you bought a house,
Yep.
you're having a baby now. Like all of these things have come into fruition. And to be quite honest, when we first met, I wasn't sure which direction you were going to go.
Hmm.
We're so angry and so bitter with everything, and you've just gone to create this amazing beautiful life for yourself.
Yeah.
Uh, and this kiddo is about to change your world in a really big,
Hmm.
it's very.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you think you had entered, like, let's say you had gone and gotten psychotherapy somewhere else and you were looking for a coach and had found me and came to me after the therapeutic process and you were like, I'm ready to get my life together, help me get there. How might this have been different for you, do you think?
Meaning jumping like right into coaching.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think we probably would have talked and started to do more therapy. You know what I mean? I think we may have like taken a step back because I have, you know what I mean? I've seen uh two other therapists prior to seeing you. Uh,
Mhm.
neither of them really provided much of what I needed in the way of like the depth and the layers and the peeling back of the onion. It was more so like I remember one guy was like, uh, I don't have a great relationship with my dad. I still don't. I've tried to, make that a little bit better, but it's not really necessarily one of my top priorities, I suppose. But he was like, hey, let's talk about that more, like let's talk about the familial aspect. And like, yes, I think it's obviously important to know like, where you're at or where you come from, but I think also like accepting it to a certain point, and then dealing with it, right? Because I think you can only look at certain relationships and have them, I don't know, have that sort of therapy be helpful um, without going really internal. You know what I mean? So I think if I had just jumped right into coaching, um, and I was still at the point of being like, okay, you know, moderately okay is pretty good. I don't think I would have had like the competence to be able to do what I'm doing now, um,
Okay.
and take the full dive to, start a business, to, you know, have this family that I have, to do all of these things. Um, I think probably would have been like, in all reality, probably would have been like, all right, let's take a step back and deal with some things here. Um, but yeah, I don't think it would have been worth it in the same way.
It would not have been the same. Okay. You needed the spectrum of the services to get the impact that you got, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else do you have to say about working with me? Is there anything you would have done differently along the way or wished I'd done?
Um, um, I suppose there were certain things that, I guess as we talked about prior to the recording, that I probably could have been a little bit more honest about. Um, I definitely have, I
Your
think
own
there
behaviors, you mean?
my own behaviors. Yes, I have
Okay.
issues with substances, and I to a certain extent, I think this is part of that issue, right? Which can be separate, can be all wrapped up in the same thing. Um, that I do to a certain extent, which I would have more honest about, but I think it would have been like, okay, now I have to deal with that, which I don't think I was ready to a certain extent. I wasn't sure if it was like, hey, I like to party or I have an issue. Gradually that developed to something a little more extreme after we had been working together.
Yeah.
Uh, which, I wish I was more honest about that stuff in the moment, so that maybe that would have been mitigated a little bit, or I could have dealt with it earlier on and
Okay.
maybe made that change. But other than that, and that's really on me, just not being as honest and as open as I could have been. But I had other things to work through that I think were um, unrelated to a certain extent.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But as far as what you could have done differently, no. I really appreciate your approach and your style and the whole idea of holistic well-being. Um, I think really getting to the root of certain things, especially internally, uh, makes a huge difference, and it makes me, and I'm sure a lot of your clients, change their perspective about themselves and the way that they view the world.
Yeah, it is. The process gives you a new set of lenses,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
You definitely don't see yourself and other people in your life the way you did before you did all of this work.
right.
If somebody was on the fence about working with me at any stage of this process, whether it was psychotherapeutic or coaching, what would you say to them?
Um, I would recommend honestly just like take the jump, try one or two or three sessions. It takes a while to really get the feeling for somebody, but this is not your typical type of therapy. Again, I've done therapy with other people in the past, and this has yielded significantly more results. And it's something that I value so much, a uh, unique approach to something. Um, So if you are on the fence, I would say, give it a chance at the very least, see what kind of new and nuanced approaches that you have to offer. Not everybody is everybody's cup of tea. I think, there's some saying that's like, I don't know how to please everybody, but I know how not to, and that's trying to do so. So I don't think everybody again is maybe going to be your cup of tea or whatever, but I think the people that are going to really find the benefit in working with you, and I have absolutely found so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And you and I have had this conversation before, how grateful and honored I've been to take this role in your life and be able to support you in making a huge transformation into a life you really wanted. I didn't
Yeah,
even know you wanted at the beginning, right? Like you were just going for okay.
right.
Um, and now you're at great. And that
Yeah,
is amazing and beautiful and awesome. And it's truly been an honor to be here with you and for you along the way. And I can't wait to see pictures of the baby
yeah. We'll send them over as soon as we get them.
when she comes. Thank you so much for taking your time to do this today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
And we'll talk again soon, okay?
sure. Sounds good.